This is Elisa Reyes, and you're listening to Deeper Than Music.
Deeper Than Music Radio.
Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth. It's deeper than music, deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the new is. It's deeper than music, deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth. It's deeper than music, deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the new is. It's deeper than music, deeper than music.
And good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Deeper Than Music. Behind every great song, there's an even greater story. I like to say what's up to everybody listening to us on Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Audible, and all the great platforms that are streaming Deeper Than Music radio podcast. Today we have a very special guest by way of Belinda of awjplatinumpr. This lady is a writer, producer, and she also has a couple albums out, synth-pop melodies with heavy beats that will awaken your senses. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the multi-talented Hersey here on Deeper Than Music. How are you doing?
Awesome, Mark. Thank you so much for having me. We really appreciate it.
Not a problem. And we were just talking, and she's in Florida, you guys, enjoying the great weather. And we were also talking, like, not only are you do music, you wear multi hats. How do you do it? How do you keep up?
It's fun. I'm a Gemini, so I get bored easily, so I have to have my hands in like a whole bunch of things, and music is a really great outlet for me. One week I can be listening to Jefferson Airplane, and which I really love, and the next week I can be listening to something really heavy and electronic, and then next week I'm just trying a little dabbling in everything artistic that I can. So stay busy.
That's awesome. And on top of that, congratulations. You were a Grammy Contender. So that's also a big deal as far as your music career. So first thing I want to ask is, like, because you mentioned Jefferson Airplane, who are your influences? Who influences Hersey?
That's a tough question. That's loaded. We'd be here for like 6 I don't know. I was really listening to a lot of disco like the last couple years, and I think that kind of helped spark writing a lot of disco and dance music.
Okay.
And I don't know, just something about the 60s too just really excites me. I really like a little bit of everything. There's something I think that I can pull positive or that I can learn from pretty much every genre of music. And today, I was listening to some of Furyus today. That's your
okay. Yeah.
I listened to yours and I was like, oh, he's kind of got like a 90s, like a hip hoppy 90s vibe. And so then that made me want to listen to some Ice Cube. And then right after that, I want to turn and listen to some music, some push in the bush,
Yeah.
So I think there's a little bit of everything. There's not really one particular artist that stands out to me more than another. They all just have so many good qualities. And I've got about 250 records in my cabinet, and just, they're all different, from like Elvis, country melodies to, more disco to, I don't know, Beethoven and classics. There's a lot of really great things.
And that's, I could appreciate that. And today I just learned something just by way of, I always love hearing stories behind the music, hence the genesis of this show. And I was watching an interview with David Grohl and Pharrell, and I didn't know this, but the iconic album Nevermind, the drums were inspired by like groups like the Gap Band, like the and like disco music, and it's Play You Miskin' Disco. And he's like, David Grohl's like, nobody made the connection. And I'm like, wow, that is alternative. The drums influenced by disco, the Gap Band. I was like, that's pretty brilliant. So it's awesome that you take from like great music and then you inspire and make it your own. My next question is, when did you know that you wanted to be a musician? Was it at a young age, and do you come from a musical background or family?
My dad's a great singer, and my mom's a phenomenal painter and artist. So we have that little bit of creativity there. But, I always kind of sang through, youth and like youth choirs, and we did state festivals and dabbled in that type of thing. But I really actually never planned on doing music. It wasn't until I met my best friend, who is Mark White, and he is the former bassist for the Spindoctors, and he was with them like 30 some odd years. And we were just messing around and singing and, making music. And he's like, you really should do this. I go, well, like, what do you mean, do this? What does that mean? He's like, you should write music and you should sing because you're so creative. I said, well, I don't know how to write a song. I don't have equipment. Like, I don't have a clue what to do. So he spent like a whole month with me and my husband and just like, took me to what I needed to the stores to buy everything. And we set up a whole studio and it was amazing. And the music in the beginning was probably terrible. But the process and the learning was so much fun. And we just got along so well and just kind of, worked off of each other and, felt like, oh, maybe this works. And he would sit on the, on the piano, on the keyboard for maybe, 10 or 15 minutes and write out something. And then he'd be like, all right, it's your turn. I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but here we go. And it just started to work. And that was in 2017.
Okay.
So 2019 is when we decided to write a record. And then in 2019, we released one. So it took a year together, but it was like such an amazing journey, that wasn't planned or, it just kind of like happened. And I'm so grateful and I love it. I love to write. It's something, Mark, and I know you know what that feels like, but something about sitting in front of my Logic and having a blank screen and being able just to put down anything is just phenomenal. It's the greatest feeling. Oh yeah.
No, it's awesome. And then so the album that you were talking about is of course Neon Masquerade.
Yeah.
And
funky.
I got to ask you, like, Neon Masquerade, what was the idea behind that title? Because, I'm a firm believer in, like, keeping stuff interesting. And just that alone is like, I have to listen to that to find out what that's about.
We just wanted to do, like, a little bit of, like, London Underground, a little bit of, like, funkadelic, a little bit of disco, a little bit of dance. And I really like those heavy, intimidating like synth beats, really heavy 80s mode beats and things like that. So that was just really fun creating Neon Masquerade. And I just thought if I was going to have a really sexy dance party in Europe, I would want everybody in masquerades and big ball gowns. And what would I want the music and the vibe to be? And there it came of Neon Masquerade. So just kind of one of those pull of the hat things, but we really liked it.
And you said like British synth-pop bands. So when you were making this, what synth-pop bands like did you have in mind, or what were you thinking? I don't know, just in my head, I just think like Pet Shop Boys, right? West End Girls, stuff like that.
Right. There's just so many. It's hard, but I really love Tricky. I really love
Okay.
sounds like Portishead. We love Goldfrapp. We love Bowie. There's just many little like influences that, we could listen to and kind of go, okay, this is a little bit heavier. This is a little bit more 80s. We like that route.
Awesome. And so then, and you just described the creative process. So he would kind of lay down the melody and you would like write the lyrics.
Or vice versa. Like, actually, he didn't write any lyrics. He says, I don't care about lyrics at all. He doesn't even understand what my are. Matter of fact, it was probably like a couple months ago. He's like, I listened to that song again, and he's like, I never understood what you were saying until I looked up the iTunes how it shows from Music Match, it shows the lyrics on and he goes, oh, and I never even really knew what you were singing about. I was like, come on, Mark. Gotta love him, right? But yeah, we would take turns, and sometimes I would write the melody, and sometimes he would just come in and throw down the bass line, or sometimes he would write all of it, and then I would write a bass line, and then he would play. So it was really cool. Like, I can't imagine a better, like a learning experience from just kind of being thrown in and not having like the technical knowledge and not having it has to be done this way or it has to be done that way. We could just kind of do whatever, we weren't pressed for time. We weren't pressed for, income. We just did this for fun. And I think that made it so much of a better journey. So thank you so much for asking about that.
Yeah, and you remind me of like I love Sting. Like I think Sting is a great He's a great writer, a writer of lyrics. And one of his producers, like that did a song, The Fragile, with the doom doom doom. Him and Sting had a love-hate relationship because Dominic Miller is like the musician, and then Sting is a writer, so they'd have to find that space between the music and the lyrics. And he's like, Sting would just go on walks, and then he'd come back with all these lyrics, and it's like, where did he find these lyrics from, up under a stone or something like that? But it's like, and I like how you say, like, you guys make this music, and then like to you it's interpreted this way, and then to him he's thinking about it from a technical side, and then he sees the music match, like, oh, okay. So
you're crazy. He did tell me this in the beginning. He's like, whatever you do, he's like, just be you and be creative. Don't make it cookie cutter. We don't want it like bubblegummy. We want it to be interesting and deep and dark and whatever we want to write about. So, you know, one of the songs is Neon Masquerade, about a neon masquerade, you know, which is really cool. And just, you know, pulling those random words like Bowie did all the time. You know, I read a lot of great articles from him, and he just said, like, you know, if I didn't know what to write, I just basically, you know, wrote a whole bunch of random things down, put them in a bowl, picked them out, and they just worked. But they were still a part of him. He just needed that little bit, I guess, of inspiration to kind of find the flow. And I totally get that.
Yeah. So was it coming into this in the beginning, was it intimidating? Like, or did you eventually find a groove? Like, I guess my question is, how did you approach the initial like sessions coming out of it with like you said, no technical experiences, but just from your artistic side?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mark. It was just cool. It was very laid back and unique because he stayed with us for a month. And so we were like, okay, well, we're done with work now. Let's spend that creative time together. There was no pressure. It was definitely difficult in the beginning just because I'm trying to, you know, conceptualize everything that's happening and, you know, figuring out, like, you know, I wanted to learn the technical side of it. So what do I click where, and, you know, how do I change the sound, and, you know, what can we do? But it was really fun though. You know, I felt like no pressure, and he made me feel like there was no pressure. You know, he just said, whatever comes out of this, let's just have fun. And you know, we make 50 songs, and one of them is a hit record, then we're golden. And then we have a direction. And so curiously, I looked up some of the stuff we did a couple years ago, and I thought, well, you know, I should pull some of that out. And now that I understand the side of it, to kind of pull it, work through it. And, you know, maybe one of those originals that wasn't so good, maybe there's something in there that we could pull out. Yeah.
And it's cool that you have such a catalog. And I just believe, like, great music is timeless. You know, there's music like we said from way back that is still relevant now and is still like timeless. And I guess that's one thing I like about technology, is people can pull from, you know, years ago. And I believe this music doesn't have a timestamp, but I like your guys' approach. Like, let's record 50 songs, and if we find something golden, we got something good, and we got a direction to go to. And I want to, so we talked about Neon Masquerade, but for the audience members that have never heard you, or this is the first time being introduced to your music, Hersey, can you go over your catalog and what you've done so far in the music industry?
Yeah, so thank you for asking. It's kind of eclectic. It's kind of all over the place. Actually, I started writing kids pop music.
Wow. Okay.
I haven't really told anybody, so you're kind of the first to know.
Exclusive. Okay.
Right. I worked under the name of Fancy Pants, and we created a group with Joe Sullivan, who goes by Uncle Doc's, a group called Banana Squared. And we have done some really funky, awesome stuff. So we put out a great record. We probably have, I'd say, 25 really great tracks. And so Uncle Doc's is really good at like promoting those. But it was like a very like fun, weird kids pop sound. But everybody, including my husband Rich, kept saying, it's so good, just make it adult. Just make adult music. And I was like, no, I just want to focus on kids. And he's like, you have to do this, just try it. So I did. And then we found out that was even better than the kids stuff. And so the kids stuff is kind of fun, and that's on the back burner in case, something else comes through and, there's maybe a sync opportunity or something cool, that we can do with that, like with what you do, with your sync and your music, but after that, we wrote Neon Masquerade, and then I met some really amazing people in LA, a producer named Craig Durrance, who did Leona Lewis's Bleeding Love.
Oh my goodness. Okay. That is okay.
In 2009, and they were up for a Grammy too, and was very short of that, but it came out right as like the awards were happening. So probably the timing was off, but that was such a great hit. And so I started working with him on Hello Again to create a new dance record for this year. So that's what we're doing now is, I have about probably 10 to 12 songs in the works. I'm also working with Kevin Dorsey, who is legendary. I'm very, very blessed and grateful to be working with him. And after I get my songs back from Craig in production, then he's going to finalize and sit through and see if there's any more, artists that we need to have on the track, or if there's any more instruments, or, kind of putting those little beautiful touches on it, because he's so great. And then we'll release. So I think the plan for our next record will probably be in late May or early June of this year.
Okay. So in time for like the summertime.
Yeah. So that way, which we anticipate having another great hit record. We're working on Love Machine right now. So we really want to make Love Machine our baby, so that we could be considered for next year's awards too. Okay,
gotcha. Yeah, and it's all about the timing and things like that. And then you also mentioned like the syncs, like having syncs and licensings and things like that. And I just think like now with technology, it is so awesome, and your music is like right into that lane. And then Kevin Dorsey, Leona Lewis was like the second coming of Mariah Carey. Like the minute you said that song, I was like, I remember when I first heard it. Just like, so you're working with some great people, and your previous works is just going to be, I can't wait. So listeners, the summer of this year, be on the lookout. What has been so far in your career, what has been like a great, like just a memorable moment? Like you're like, wow, I got to pinch myself.
Well, there's been so many, but I would probably have to say this was 2 weeks before the world shut down. Mr. Beautiful Kevin Dorsey brought me out with also my friend Julie. She's a manager in LA, and they brought me out to LA to go perform in front of some of the heads of the music associations and some very important people. And so I had a very intimate setting with me on a stage and 20 people. And it was really, really phenomenal because everybody got to see me at one time. And that was so great. And I think that kind of started the precedence of, okay, that was great. Now let's work together. Now that we see, there's a great synergy here, let's work together. Let's make things, some things happen. And that's just developed, kind of everything that's happened up until now. So I think that was a big turning point for me. Even we weren't in a fancy arena. We were on a little stage in LA, and we were just doing our thing. And it was really great to have, the raw sound and to get in front of everybody and say, I wrote everything, we produced everything, and thank you for being here, and hope you like what you hear. And it worked. It was really great. So for me, that was probably a turning point moment.
And then we mentioned COVID. How did that impact because I think we were in LA around the same time. I remember February, I was at Sue Wong's Oscar Gala in LA in February, and then bam, March was lockdown. How did that impact what you had going on, and how did you work through that? Like, because we know technology, just people found ways, right? How did it impact you, and what did you do during that downtime?
Well, honestly, Mark, it was absolutely terrible because right after it was right after, Kevin and the team were like, okay, we're gonna go full force. We're ready to move forward. Let's figure out budgets. Let's figure out what we need to do to start producing videos and more music. And then everything happened. So we were just kind of forced to figure out some things on our own. So it actually wasn't too bad in the end. We try to take the positive from every situation, and it wasn't so bad because we started kind of making content and material on our own, and figuring out what some social media things were, because I have a social media person. So that was kind of cool, and learning to work remotely with people was actually fine. Sending files and communicating, and we could still get on a call and go, there needs to be a here, or there needs to be like a whatever it is. We're making lots of weird sounds and noises on our call, but we could still do that and be together and put together a plan. And so thankfully, because of technology, I think everything was great. So we were like, okay, it sucks, but this is what we got to do. And we just plowed forward and kept going, and there comes hello again. So I'm actually really grateful. It's been really a great 2 years.
Yeah, because I just remember it was like Hollywood shut down.
Yeah,
and then there was just this level of uncertainty. But then, like you said, technology was the catalyst, and then people were doing like, hey, I can still film and do this and that. I mean, and like Top Gun Maverick was on hold forever. It finally came out, but people made it through, which is awesome. And you made it through, because it sounded like you were like, yeah, I had this intimate meeting with all these execs, and then bam, COVID. I could imagine that could have been crushing. And I like how you decided, we're on a Skype call, the hi-hats need to be like this and that, but you found a way to make it happen and keep going. And now we're out of that. And like you said, in the summer, we'll get to see and hear the fruits of your labor. So to a listener who is listening, a young person that listens or follows you and aspires to be like Hersey, what advice would you give them?
Oh man, try everything and regret nothing. Because I think too many people have this thing about themselves where it has to sound like this, or it has to have these results, or it's not perfect. And I think a lot of perfection comes from a lot of screw ups and a lot of, messes, and kind of like, that's not what I planned at all, but it turns out to be a beautiful thing. And you're being true to yourself, so do everything, regret nothing, and write your own beats, Right? Make something new and funky. And if you're like, wow, this is so weird and different, beautiful. I think people are starving, for something new. And so I love when a new artist comes on and it's just so weird and random and unique. And I'm like, man, you really tapped into yourself. And I have a lot of admiration and respect for that, because I know it can be very scary, how people are going to be receptive to your sound, or if they're going to love you or not like you at all. But in the end, if it's for you and this is your passion, none of it will be a regret. It will just be a beautiful journey, and you'll have so much fun.
Yeah, it's like sometimes I'm so surprised with certain, I like in the difference they made between Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston when their estates. Michael, not only did he perform, he wrote, he bought publishing, and Whitney, greatest voice in the world, but for the most part, she was a performer. She didn't write. And the huge difference that makes when you create your own. And for me, I like it because, hey, not only do I get a royalty check from a songwriter, also from being a producer, publishing. And I'm glad you say that. And the best advice my mom ever gave me is like, if you're passionate about something, learn every aspect and the ins and outs. So my last two questions, and again, thank you for this interview. I mean, it was just your energy, like it makes sense listening to your music and now talking to you, like the energy is there. What does music mean to you?
Oh gosh, you're asking me some really tough questions tonight. Well, it brings like a new dimension to life. You see everything in one dimension, but in music, in my head, when I hear something, it's almost like I can see the notes kind of floating around before I write. I'm like, okay, this is the pattern, or it's just it's a 6-dimensional sensory, beautiful thing for me. You know, it's my creative outlet. It lets me be passionate about something else. And this is where everything that I do is right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for me, this is my time and my space. And I really enjoy, and I'm very grateful that my family gives me that time to be able to write and to have that space too, because, you know, we are all in crazy worlds, but I have a really supportive, amazing team. And I couldn't have this beautiful 6-dimensional space if it wasn't, you know, for my family, my husband, and I have a 13-year-old, and also Kevin and Belinda and the team. Everybody has just been so amazing and supportive and giving me that room to have that dimensional space. So music is everything. Yeah.
And you just reminded me of, I think it's Pharrell and Nerd, NERD. They have an album called Seeing Sounds. And I'm like, that's something only musicians will get. And you just validated that. Seeing Sounds.
Yeah. He's so talented too.
Oh, yeah. And he reminds me, like you said, he has that different sound. And somebody told me, and you just validated that as well, when I was first coming out and doing music, and he said the biggest thing that you can do, one of my mentors, is like create your own movement, and that has a longer lasting effect, and like you're doing. Last question: when it's all said and done, how would you like to be remembered as far as your contributions and what you've done?
I would love this. This is such a cool question. Thank you for asking, Mark. It's, for me, I think I fell in love with disco when we heard I Feel Love. Love that song. Giorgio Moroder, amazing. Like we were talking about earlier, the classics that never die. I want someone to be able, 30, 40, 50 years from now, who loves dance music, to turn this on and go, wow, this is such a great beat. It doesn't really tie to a genre or time. It just can be played whenever. And that is something I would love to have, because I don't want to be the one-hit wonder and then it's gone. That's a very, very unique sound. And then it's gone. I want something that's kind of fun. And to me, that dance music is timeless. Like, I can listen to Just a Touch of Love, or I can listen to Everybody Dance Now, I still feel like, okay, I want to dance to this. And then I can listen to Donna Summer. I want to dance to it. I can listen to all different genres. And that is the feeling that I would love to create. I want someone to feel happy, in love, passionate, energetic, all good things positive when they're listening to the music, and to be timeless.
Yeah. And
that's you, I know.
Huh?
It's hard to do, but like you're talking about Michael Jackson earlier, who is probably one of the most talented people, I would have to say, on the planet. His music is so good, and his music is timeless. Oh yeah.
Like you can listen. I've always was fascinated how, like, I would be in a club and they either like Off the Wall or Bad, and they play it and it's still like that synergy is still there. And people that wasn't like, I feel blessed that I was a kid in the 80s when like Thriller and everything, and then to see people that weren't there when he first moonwalked or when Thriller debuted, on MTV, but kids still, like, I get fascinated when I see kids like dancing or redoing the Thriller thing. And like you said, like Donna Summer, God bless the dead, but like her music is still timeless. And I think, and I'm pretty positive, like with the listening to your music and the team that you have, and being Grammy considered, that is not a far-fetched dream for you. And like listeners, Summer Hersey, remember.
So much.
And again, and then that brings my next. I said 2 questions, but I lied, 3.
Oh, you're good.
Where can people catch your music? Where are you on social media? Where do they need to go? Shameless promotion time.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. Every platform. iTunes has probably the biggest catalog of everything on there. Of course, Spotify, iHeartRadio, there's like 120 platforms. So wherever you love streaming music, you can listen to Hersey. It's like the chocolate without the second H. So Hersey. And I'm also on Instagram under Hersey Music Official.
All right. And ladies and gentlemen, you heard it, another great interview with Hersey. Remember, summer this year. And this is Hersey and Mark signing off for another great interview on Deeper Than Music. Thank you for listening.
Hello again. I haven't seen you in a while. Hello again. Are you stopping for some time?